back in January, I visited Disney's Hollywood Studios for my very first time. This was my second of 3 Disney parks I visited on my trip, the others being Magic Kingdom and Epcot. And of the 3, this is what I consider to be the most thrilling of the Disney parks. I had a great experience at Hollywood Studios, with some people on the trip even claiming that it was their favorite Disney park. With all that said, what did I think of Hollywood Studios? This is my full review of Disney's Thrill Park. Before we get into the tour of the park, let's talk about the entry experience. Now, it's important to mention that we visited in January, so we could not experience Rock and Roller Coaster as it was going under a refurbishment. However, even without that unique indoor Vekoma, there were still plenty of things to experience at the park. Like the other Disney parks besides Magic Kingdom, you can take a bus straight to the entrance, or you can park in the parking lot and take a tram. Disney's Hollywood Studios also has a Sky Tram that extends to the Caribbean Beach Resort. The entire front half of Disney's Hollywood Studios is themed to, obviously, Hollywood. The entrance of the park looks like a classic 50s diner, and because it's Disney, the ticketing and security is a breeze. Now let's get into the tour. The weird thing about Hollywood Studios is the layout. There's one massive dead end in the park, which we'll get to in a minute. As soon as you enter, guests are greeted with the Crossroads of the World sign in the middle of Hollywood Boulevard. This whole section of the park is paved like a road, with sidewalks, traffic lights, and shops all around. This is where you'll find most of your Disney gift shops and also some restaurants. Compared to Magic Kingdom's Main Street, Hollywood Boulevard is super short, with 2 paths splitting off almost immediately. Heading to the right is Sunset Boulevard, which I viewed as basically a main midway extension. Sunset Boulevard is a much more open midway, with wider sidewalks, more seating, and is full of good restaurants. We ate near the end of Sunset Boulevard in a place called Rosie's, which served burgers, fries, and hot dogs. Just typical amusement park food, but it was higher quality. There's lots of seating around Sunset Boulevard, and it is presented, in my opinion, more nicely than Hollywood Boulevard. Part of that may be the iconic Tower of Terror standing at the end of the midway. This was the first Tower of Terror and may arguably be Disney's most iconic ride. It's simple in design, a drop tower which drops repeatedly inside a haunted hotel. How the ride actually works is incredible. There's a whole video on how Tower of Terror functions that I highly recommend watching. I'll link it down below. It's a fantastic ride, with the theming really making the experience. Being a Disney park, you're bound to wait in line, but because almost all of the queues here are indoors with lots of theming, waiting isn't bad. The only exception to this was Slinky Dog Dash, but more on that later. Also on Sunset Boulevard was a Cars-themed ride and Rock and Roller Coaster, but that section of the midway was roped off. This was the main dead end in the park, where guests are forced to walk back to Hollywood Boulevard or the central plaza of the park. The centerpiece of Hollywood Studios standing tall is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, a ride which we didn't get to experience, but we heard is the same system as Rise of the Resistance, a ride we'll be getting to shortly. The central area is massive, super open, and never feels crowded because of how much space there is. To the right of this plaza is Animation Courtyard, a part of the park we didn't even know existed, partly because the entire section is geared more towards the younger audience, with meet and greets and stuff like that. Going straight leads us into the big circle of the park, which takes us around in a loop. The first of 2 areas in this loop is Toy Story Land, a fan favorite. Here, guests are shrunk down in Andy's backyard, with massive blocks and toys in the area. There are walking actors, including a drumline toy soldier performance. In addition to a few small kids' rides, the star of the area is Slinky Dog Dash, an iconic Mack Rides family launch coaster. While on its own, this family coaster would be underwhelming at best, the theming and onboard audio makes this a really fun ride. The coaster winds around blocks through 2 launches above the paths, and even has some weird airtime pops. The train is of course Slinky Dog, which is an awesome touch. It's a fun family coaster with excellent theming. However, Toy Story Land isn't even the best section. The best section by far, and probably my favorite amusement park section I've ever been to, is Galaxy's Edge. You could probably spend a whole day in this one land. Stormtroopers, Kylo Ren, and other characters from Star Wars wander the area. There are tons of gift shops full of masks, lightsabers, and different food items. We tried the blue and green milk in the area, which was super unique. There's also a few other restaurants around the area serving some unique items. There are 2 rides in this area, both absolutely fantastic. Hidden behind the absolutely massive Millennium Falcon is Smuggler's Run, a unique ride where each rider is given a specific task. You strap into a spaceship with 2 gunners, 2 engineers, and 2 pilots. The pilots steer the ship, with the ride vehicles moving where the pilots point. What's interesting is that each experience is different. If the pilot hits an object, the vehicles actually jolt with the object like you are really there. There are even wind effects and points. The other ride is my personal favorite non-coaster I've ever ridden, and it's probably in my top 10 rides ever. Rise of the Resistance is an incredible experience from start to finish. I'm not even a Star Wars fan, and this ride was incredible. There are 3 different pre-show scenes, one with stormtroopers staring down the guests. The ride vehicles are trackless, with computers controlling their every move, allowing for tighter turns, spinning, and a more immersive experience. The cars weave in between AT-ATs, escape enemies, gunfire, and lightsabers, and even enter a drop track surprise element, which really caught me off guard. There are tons of screens, animatronics, holograms, and wind effects in the ride. And it actually ends outdoors in an area of the park hidden from the normal paths. It's an incredible experience from start to finish, and absolutely worth the 2-hour line we waited in. After exiting from Galaxy's Edge, we enter back near Hollywood Boulevard, in an area called Grand Avenue. Here, there aren't many attractions, but a couple meet and greets, performers, including a Muppet show, and a restaurant we ate that had fantastic pizza called Pizza Rizzo. Moving on past Grand Avenue, the paths reconnect with the plaza, or go down around a lake, passing an Indiana Jones show. This area of the park, in my opinion, felt the most open and empty with rides. Because of that, we only ventured in that area once at the very beginning of the day. There were lots of decorations and iconic attractions, but no real rides or anything. Of course, that's to be expected with a theme park, and the other areas of the park more than make up for it. So let's talk pros and cons. Getting into the first pro is the ride collection at Disney's Hollywood Studios. The rides that Disney's Hollywood Studios has are of supreme quality. While not the most thrilling, Slinky Dog Dash is a well-rounded family coaster. Tower of Terror is a terrifying drop tower experience, with the theming and opening windows at the top really enhancing the ride. Rise of the Resistance and Smuggler's Run are 2 of the best rides I've ever ridden at any park, and I'm not even a Star Wars fan. The immersion is incredible, and there are lots of surprises throughout the rides. While there aren't a lot of rides, quality is definitely over quantity here. A con here, though, is the difference between lands. What I mean is that there are definitely lands that are way better than others. Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge are so immersive and unique, with food options, actors, and rides specifically catering to those areas. The other areas of the park, though, like Animation Courtyard, Grand Avenue, and Commissionary Lane, just feel like filler lands. There aren't many attractions, and if there are, it just feels like they picked random Disney movies and characters to show off. You can definitely tell which areas of the park were constructed more carefully. Another con is the merch, and this really goes for all of the Disney parks. There isn't any merch specifically for the parks or rides here. I would have loved a specific Hollywood Studios shirt, but all the merch is stuffed Disney plushies or character shirts. I get the appeal, but I would like more options, especially with how many merch stores there are around the park. However, another pro, which could go to all the Disney parks, is the atmosphere. Every building, every flower bed, and every structure is placed carefully so it fits with the area. The pathways are always clean, and you can tell that this is a priority for the park. The shows are also great here. We watched Fantasmic, and while it did drag on a little, with half of the show being projections on water, the actual acting parts were excellent, and the explosions were very cool. The production of the rides and areas of the park are excellent at Hollywood Studios. So let's talk about my overall thoughts. Hollywood Studios is a fantastic day park. There aren't many rides, so you shouldn't need more than a day here unless you want to experience every nook and cranny of the park. The rides that Hollywood Studios has, though, are of incredible quality, and some of the best in the world. The back half of the park are the 2 best amusement park sections I've been to, but some of the other sections feel tight or like they were forgotten. The middle section of the park is definitely lacking something, and I'm sure if you were to visit, you'll get the same vibe. The atmosphere is great, but Hollywood Studios doesn't feel as complete as Magic Kingdom. In my opinion, if you had to pick one Disney park to go to, it would be Magic Kingdom, but this would definitely be my second pick. The lands are immersive, the rides are fun, the shows are great, and the park is clean. It's a guaranteed fun time. Out of my park rankings, this is my number 10 park of 23, placing above Holiday World but below Six Flags New England. If we were going off of just park setup and not rides, this would probably be number 3. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Comment what you think of Hollywood Studios and have a great rest of your day.